I suppose on the same subject, quite a controversial subject, if it's something you've come across a lot, what is your opinion in terms of like gait analysis and things
Oh,
like that?
yeah, I do gait analysis as part of my,
Ah,
so I do video gait analysis.
good.
Um, and so, what is gait analysis? There is no, there is good running form. There is good form, but there is no one size fits all. Yeah. So
No.
you can't make everyone run the same way and say that's the correct way to run because you will bugger up 70% of people. Yeah. People have their own style of running, but there is a form which will help. And it's all about improving running economy. So yeah, so I do it, there's people send me videos, I put it into an app and then I slow it all down. And we look at foot strike and forward lean and all the different elements of what makes a good running stance, and to be fair, when I started it I was quite rigid. I was like, if you heel strike you are fucking wrong. Yeah. And now I've come back, I'm getting old and soft. I'm like, right, I'm well just a bit fucking wiser, and saying, well, if you heel strike, is that an issue? Is it causing a problem? And if it's not, then fucking leave it alone. But when people come to, and the problem is also is runners, yeah, are stubborn fucking bastards. And you have to be to do this sport. You have to have that element of stubbornness.
Mm.
You turn around to someone who's been running 15 years ago, mate, I don't think you're doing it right. It does not go down very well at all, man. They do not.
Actually, I mean, Nathan, you've got a story, unless he's tipped off to get his kid to bed. Nathan, you had a gait analysis and it you ended up getting injured, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a gait analysis because I wanted new shoes, and that was the thing, wasn't it? And I never had any problems with my knees before. And then I had a gait analysis. They give me a shoe, run with that shoe for about 1, 2 years, and it fucked up my knee.
So when you say gait analysis, what was involved? What did they do?
Looked at the heel strike and everything. Put me to the computer to see which shoe was best for me to get my foot landing in the right place.
So is this whether this was in a running trainer shop? So
Yeah,
yeah. No.
yeah. And I was 40 at the time, so I just think now if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
So, like, my point of like, this guy's been running 15 years and me telling him you're not quite doing it right. My answer is, well, why have you come to me? You know, you've come to me because there's an issue. So, let me help with that issue. But it is true. If it is running analysis isn't for everyone, it's not something I offer to everyone as a matter of course. Sometimes I do it as a standalone thing. And then sometimes I'll do it, as we get to the end and someone's come back, from a bad injury and we've brought them back up to running a decent distance. Sometimes I'll just do a quick analysis just to mainly because what you see through the analysis is weaknesses in the body that you can't see in static testing in clinic. There's a certain amount I can do in here. I can get people on a step and hopping and jumping and doing things. But to actually see someone running, you will see so many different things that are happening in the mechanic of the body. You will see like a crossover gait where a foot sweeping in front of the other. That's not necessarily, it isn't good running form, but what it's telling you is one hip isn't supporting the other one. So it's coming to catch your body weight down at an angle because it can't support you. And then you go, okay, so this hip is now weak. So it's used as a kind of to lead the rehab. So we go, okay, so this right hip is weak. We need to concentrate work into this hip to strengthen it, and then get them back on the treadmill, re-video it, re-analyze the gait, and then the feet are fully straight. And we're like, okay, so that's that issue resolved. But that swoopy, that scissor gait, it's going to lead to medial tibial stress syndrome. It's going to lead to all kinds of other conditions if it's left untreated. So it's not
Mm.
about it is about improving form to a point, but everyone has their own form, and it's like
Yeah.
cadence, cadence should be between 190 and 170, so 180 is perfect. Yeah. And I used to be rigid with that as well. Okay, you should fucking run 180. Well, what if I'm on the base run? Doesn't fucking matter. Run 180. You can run 180 fast, you can run 180 slow. Just fucking run 180. And I was hard line with it. And then you sort of grow up a bit, don't you? And you're like, well, actually, if you're doing a base run and he's doing 170, what's the fucking problem? There is literally no problem. Stop busting people's balls. And if you're doing trail, you can't do a consistent 180 over trail unless you're fucking Courtney Dweller. Yeah, you're climbing, you're descending. It's if it balances out, So there are the rules, there are rules to good running form. What you've got to do is take those rules and fucking be lenient and adapt them to the person you're doing the analysis for and get the best out of that person, not trying to put them all into this fucking modified runner. So
That's good. That's
yeah,
interesting. You know what? I'm really happy actually because I got a second job where I work in a running shop locally in Moti. Don't know if
yeah,
you've been in there in Cardiff, and we do gait analysis as part of like buying trainers and stuff. And I did sports science when I was younger, and I've forgotten pretty much everything. You know how it is, so I had to learn how to do all that. But recently, I tell you what, more often than not, we get quite a lot of that scissor gait with the crossover, and I'm really happy because you've just said something which I told somebody recently about having to had quite a narrow gait, and also their leg would cross it, and I said it's because you've got a weakness in your hips,
yeah,
or in one of your hips, and then the other one's compensating for it. And I said, obviously, we can look at giving you a shoe today based on your running form, but you're going to have to do extra work in the background to help, with weak glutes and weak hips. So I'm actually quite happy that you said that because I feel like I gave them good advice just for
yeah,
like the sake of they pay 20 quid for it, but if they buy trainers, they don't have to pay for that. And so it's kind of like, we're a running shop at the end of the day. We're not sports therapists. That's where we advise them to go and see someone like you. So for a quick gait analysis, I mean,
yeah.
I've never had any bad feedback to date. So I mean, doing something right, fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely. And so there's a reason, personally, and then this isn't fucking backed up by any evidence. It's just a personal opinion. But there is a reason that statistic of 80% of new runners will get injured in the first year. And that's, like, so someone comes to your gym, Nate, for the first time and says, right, mate, I'm getting massive. You don't say, fucking crack on, there's the weights bench, mate. You take them through each lift and each movement and how to do it with good form, or they're going to get injured. Yet when we know we haven't run for 10 years, we walk into Sports Direct, pick up a pair of trainers, go, I'm going to fucking run. Yeah. And then this is why the injury rate's so high, because there is a bit of a technique. There is running should, I always think of it like, it's kind of like running's like a swan. Yeah. You should look like you're gliding. All the hard work's going on in the background, but you should just look like it's effortless at gliding. And I used to do like little talks of running injury, just injury prevention. And I used to have a slide, that Toy Story, where he says, he's not flying, he's falling with style. Yeah. That's running. Yeah. Because basically, if you're running well, you're just basically falling forward and catching yourself on your feet because it takes absolutely no effort to fall over. So just leaning forward and kind of falling forward, your feet are catching you, and that momentum is doing the work. And then the running economy is massively reduced, and you're utilizing the springs of your body, the springs of the ankle complex, those natural springs which are just pushing you forward, and everything relaxes. You should be trying to be as relaxed as you can, and then just glide. I always say to people, if you watch a marathon, and you watch the elites, you can pretty much put a spirit level across their heads because they just fucking glide out that gate. And then
Yeah, it's
behind them, and you've got this fucking Mexican Constantino wave of dross bounding by, and that's the difference between a fucking guy or a lady, a good fucking runner who understands how to run, and the guy
yeah.
in the fucking Eiffel Tower fancy dress shit. Yeah.
That's mad actually because my mate Gareth, who I've spoken about a lot, he's come out on a few runs with me. Like he's done the Dragon's Back. He's in a I won't go into detail, but crazy amount of ultras. He's really, really talented runner. And I always say, and if you speak to Jenks, one of my mates who met him on one of the runs, um, the way he described him was it looked like he was just dancing along the route because we were like over the top of I don't know where it was, like Black Mountains somewhere. It was a real tough route. And I mean, we were puffing our asses, and you could tell that he was this experienced runner because he was just like almost looked like he was tiptoeing across the rocks, down the hills, and like just like you said, glided. That is the perfect word. And now, when I think about how many runs I've been with him and I watch him, you can tell he's that more experienced. But I
one,
know,
of,
like it's
one of the
it's
great moments of my life, right? I can die now, 44, happy man, because I did UTS in 2023 and I followed Nicky Spinks up Snowdon.
No way.
Yeah, I actually, well, fucking embarrassingly, fangirled the shit out of her when I saw her at the start. Um, that close to asking for a selfie, but I got some self-respect back and pulled myself back in. But yeah, Nick's a fucking legendary runner. And just
Yes.
watching her plumb Snowden, man, you're just looking at it like that's a whole another level of just, and and it's I don't know, it's the energy, the happiness. It's that kind of, they're not fucking blowing, like you say, blowing and dying. They're doing it and they're just doing it well. And it's just fucking phenomenal to see, man.
It's lovely to see, isn't it? It is. It's great to see, and yeah, it really is. My mate, that same guy, though, unfortunately, talking about that, which is ironic, he was due to do the what's the ultra, the 8-day ultra in Scotland.
Oh, is
The one
Cape
is quite a
Wrath.
big.
Hey,
That's
Russ.
it, Cape Wrath. Yeah, we were due to do that, and then a week before, he'd fallen, and injured his ribs, and he had like a bit of pain in his leg. He was able to run home and stuff like that, and just he's like got home, was like, oh, that's a bit painful. Next morning, hurt a bit more. Went to see a physio, sports therapist, and he bloody stress fractured his femur.
Oof.
So we had to. He's back running only recently, but only small miles. And I mean, this guy has run all his life. He's, like I said, probably the most experienced runner that I know personally, that is a friend. And it's just these little things can happen. They put you out, and now he's having to run really small runs and build his way back up again. And he's doing it sensibly because he knows, like, this, he can't just go back to running dragons back distances coming off a femur fracture. So, but yeah, it's a very interesting conversation, sports therapy is, and I know we could just literally do an entire podcast purely talking about that because there's so many questions that
So
around
many
footwear.
Yeah.
What's that, sorry?
So many rabbit holes to fall down in that.
There are. Yeah, they really are. But it's just, to me, and like you said, to anybody who cares about running and their running form and preventing injuries and everything else, it's just such an important aspect, if not the most important, because you got to look after yourself, and there's all kinds